Welcome to another stocked and loaded episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important hobby news, discussions, debates, opinions, info, and interviews with key hobby and sports dignitaries. Also, if you're good, you know we are going to give away something. Now, here's the guy that wanted the cards more than the gum. John Newman.
What is up, everybody? Episode 167 of the Sports Card Nation. Happy to be back. Got a great guest today on the show. Gentlemen, we've been on the show before, but it was in July of 2019, and I thought about that. I'm like, what are we doing here? And happy to have him back almost over 2 years from his last appearance. A lot obviously has transpired since then, and he had a rough year, as a person, and with loss, as did I, and I think a lot of you out there can probably relate and have probably lost somebody, or whether it be a family or a friend or coworker. And my guest lost two very close family members. If that wasn't bad enough, very close in time proximity to each other as well. And he's a resilient guy. And, we talk about ambassadors and advocates of the hobby, two words I like to use and try to represent and be. And this gentleman is probably one of the poster boys for those two words. Very passionate, great guy, loves the hobby, loves helping people, loves being, promoting the hobby, all eras, all sports, even though it's predominantly baseball. And if you haven't figured out who I'm talking about yet, it's Dub Mentality. Joey Shiver will be my guest today on the show. Like I said, I've known Joey for years, and can't say a bad word about him at all. Just a really good dude, and who loves the hobby, loves to promote it, and like I said, had an up and down year with different things in his life, and want to talk about that. How do you continue the hobby through those things, and how the hobby itself can be sort of a factor to get you through it, and he's going to tell you how a lot of the folks in the hobby, through their actions when he was down, kind of helped him out. And most of the time it's him helping others, but, everyone needs help at different points or another. So, and Joey's going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a lot of things. Great conversation with a great person. And, there's certain convos that just two guys talking or two people talking, and I think this will definitely qualify as sort of that. When I talk to Dub, we're really we may be recording, but we're going to have similar conversations whether I hit that record button or I don't. So I think you'll find his point of view interesting, and he hasn't done much social media wise recently, so glad to have him on. So with that being said, let's get this thing started.
Hey, this is Jeremy with BST Sport Cards, the platform that has no seller fees. Just want to remind everyone, the hobby is the people.
The Sports Card Shop is your small-town local card shop with a global reach. Located in New Buffalo, Michigan, the shop is one of the most accessible in the Midwest. In addition to being an authorized Panini direct dealer, the Sports Card Shop carries all major trading card brands, including Topps, Upper Deck, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, and more. With all that new wax, 500,000 singles, and showcases full of graded cards, you're sure to find something great for your collection, whether you're just starting out or a seasoned collector. The Sports Card Shop is your one-stop shop. So call us, come see us, or visit us on the web and social media. Our phone number is 269-469-0140. Website is thesportscardshop@moco.com. The Sports Card Shop is part of the Moco Retail Group, connecting sports, the hobby, and people around the world.
Nation. It's now time to chop it up with our featured guest on the one-of-one card shop guest line. Let's go!
All right, glad to have my next guest back on Sports Card Nation. Been too long. I didn't realize it was this long when I looked up his last appearance. Almost 3 years. He was here in July of 2019. That's way too long for this gentleman, but glad he's back today. We'll make sure the third appearance isn't almost 3 years. But Mr. Dub Mentality, Joey Shiver, welcome.
Hey, John, appreciate you having me. I didn't realize it had been that long either. So
I know
I guess time flies.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Even with a pandemic and everything else going on in the world. So it's been, like I said, almost 3 years. I've talked to you. I don't want to make it like we haven't had any conversation. I'm just saying, as far as being on the show, a lot has happened. Obviously, hobby in real life in that almost 3 year span. For you, you've had, some ups and some downs. You lost some close relatives with a dad and an uncle. Those were the downs. And then, sports wise, you had your Bulldogs and Braves winning championships. So you've had highs and lows, as a lot of people do. But you persevere and you keep going. I'm going to talk, hope to talk to you a little bit about that. And, so I guess I'll congratulate you, even being a Mets fan, Joey, on the Braves World Series. Congratulations.
Hey, at least it wasn't the Phillies, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm one of those guys. I don't really hate. I don't have hate for other teams. I'm just rooting for the Mets. So I guess if we can't do it, if someone in our division gets it, it's really the next best things. And sometimes that just motivates, the team to do some stuff. And they got Scherzer in the off season. So before that shut down, and we'll talk about that today as well. But we'll see. Hopefully we have a baseball season so your Braves can defend their title. But, I talked about, I don't want to talk too much about it. I know it's tough. I lost my brother, myself in June. You lost your dad and your uncle very close together. If losing one's not terrible enough, two is even worse. Talk about, how do you get through that? As a human and as a hobbyist, kind of, in both sectors, if you will.
Yeah. Obviously nothing can really prepare you for something like that. Even if it's a situation like in my family, both my uncle and my dad were sick. We knew they were sick and it was, we knew that something was going to eventually happen. But you're still never ready. You try to spend as much time as you can, which is made difficult by the pandemic. When you have a relative who is compromised the way my dad was, you have to be careful. And so you have this fine balance of, do I spend as much time? Can I spend as much time as I'd like? No, because I have to, quarantine from time to time when I've been exposed and things like whatever the case may be. But, I did get to spend a good bit of time with my dad the last couple of months, and got to say some things that you want to say as a son to a father, or and got to hear some things from him that you want to hear, and for that I was thankful. We didn't get much of a break after that with my uncle passing away 2 months later, and so it was a bit of a rough time, obviously. Family gets you through something like that. And friends, I've met so many people in the hobby where the hobby comes into play for me during that time was just the people that I'd met and the friendships that I'd made with people, and, them reaching out, sending letters, cards, whatever the case may be. And it reminds you that your world is bigger than, when you get in a situation like that, it's easy to close off. It's easy to kind of burrow in your own hole, and it helps you to see, that there is, things out there that you can attach yourself to and try to get your mind off things and, try to move forward. Obviously, the you want to honor the person who's left you, and that's what I'm trying to do, and be the kind of dad that he was to me, to my children, and that sort of thing. But the hobby, spending so much time at my parents' house, the last couple of years, it was where I grew up. They had lived in that house since I was 7, I believe. So it was home to me. That's where I opened my first pack of cards. That's where I spent my teenage years collecting Jose Canseco and Mark McGuire and King Griffey Jr. So me being a junk wax guy, I have all these boxes, of 89 Donners, 88 Tops, whatever the case may be. And, had those with me and opened them in my house. And it just brought back all these feelings and memories and, times when I would open cards and show them to my dad and, different things like that. And so I was able to, do some of that, as I spent some time with my mom after my dad passed. I spent a lot of time down there with her because, she's been with my dad. I'm 45 next week or Sunday. And, she's been with him 50 years. And so, this was a big, being alone, big change for her. And so me and my kids and my wife spent time with her. And so just being able to spend time down there and kind of relive some of the memories and moments that I still hold on to as an adult collector, that I hold on to from when I was a teenager. And my uncle was really close in age to me, only 8 years apart. And, we collected together. He had cards and, he was an Auburn guy. So his guys were Frank Thomas and Bo Jackson. And I was, Herschel and Dominique Wilkins. And, we hung on to our colleges when they went into the pros. And so I had a lot of memories, with him that I was able to kind of realize again and think about and just kind of cherish. And that, is sort of really what I've been doing the last 4 months or so doing. I've been monitoring the hobby. I've been opening cards. I've been spending some time, on Twitter and things like that. But, this is the first this me and you talking is the first time I've sat down and talked with anybody in the hobby like this, since before my dad passed away, because I just haven't done this sort of thing for whether it's motivation or having a lot of other things going on. This is really, my first chance to sit down and kind of talk about it with a hobby perspective. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do that.
Well, I appreciate you doing it and coming on, and I know it's not easy. Like I said, I had a with my brother passing in June. It's even like you said, Joe, even when you sort of know it's coming, it's still very difficult. I don't care what anyone says, and I think well said with talking about the memories with your dad and your uncle both, especially relating to cards, but not just cards. And I believe the best way we can honor those who go before us is in how we conduct ourselves and carry ourselves. And,
right.
I know you well enough to know and say this, I know they're very proud of you. How you conduct yourself, and as a dad, and I'm not even talking as just a hobbyist, but as a dad and in the hobby as a person, just as a person in general.
Appreciate
so that's the best thing we can do to honor, though, when we lose relatives, is to try to make them proud. I'm sure they already were, and just continue to make them proud. And you always have those memories, card related ones, non-card related ones. And I think I know my brother, and I'm sure your dad and uncle would tell us, keep going, and you got to live your life as well. And that's the best way we can honor them is by, doing the best we can and trying to be a good example while we're here as well. You're, one thing I admire about you, I try to be like that. You might do a little bit better job than I, is you just being a positive person in general, but especially, in the hobby as well, just spreading hobby positivity. And you mentioned about a lot of the folks from the hobby when you lost your dad and uncle, like kind of came through and sent things and communicated thoughts and prayers and condolences and all that stuff. And I think that's a testament to Joey, to you as well, what you mean to other people, that they care enough. I know, even thinking back in June when my brother Steve passed, the things, the notes and emails and direct messages and that stuff. I don't know. I'm sure I can speak for you. That stuff goes a long way. I know someone said, well, it's just words, but sometimes those words really can hit home, and you're not alone, and people are thinking of you and care enough about you to take time, whether it's 30 seconds out of their day or 10 minutes. It's still, they didn't have to do that. And so the fact when people do that just tells you sort of what you mean to them. And it kind of lifts your spirits up as much as can be in the moment. And, I think it's important. And I try to be like that, and knowing how that feels, I try to, be a little bit of a light. You hope you never have to be for anybody. Nothing bad happens, but that's not life in reality. So
completely agree.
Yeah. But you gotta keep going, and that's the best way we can honor, all our loved ones and friends that we've lost. So going to step aside for a real quick break, but we'll be right back after that. Greg Morris Cards wants to buy your cards. A long trusted name in the sports card business, Greg has been buying sports card collections for over a decade now. Any sport, baseball, basketball, football, or hockey, in any era, vintage or modern, will do. Just no junk wax era sets, please. To learn more and to sell Greg Morris your cards, go to www.gregmorriscards.com. Fill out the consignment sale request form, and someone will get back to you on how to get cash for your cards. Also, if you're a dealer looking to sell your collection, Greg Morris wants to talk. Plenty of dealers use Greg Morris' massive eBay platform as a way to consign their cards. Take advantage of Greg's experience in the hobby to get more bang for your buck. Sports Card Nation is back with Dub Mentality. Getting back to the hobby, it's been, like I said, since we've really talked in depth about the hobby. A lot's changed. A lot's happened. We're close in age. We have similar interests in how we got our starts. What are your thoughts right now, Joey, on where we are, like in the hobby? Good or bad?
Well, it's because it's been so long since we talked. There's a wide range of things that have happened. We've seen Project 2020 explode and then fizzle. Then you've seen the base card explode and come back down some. You've seen players prospected. There's a lot of things that you can attach yourself to that are negative in the hobby if you really look for those things. The social media can point out things that are negative, but especially over the last year, I've remembered the reason that I do baseball cards and football cards and basketball cards or whatever is to break away from negativity and being, the responsibility and just being drugged down by just everyday life. I mean, you can easily get bogged down and work and being a parent and also going through, life-changing events and things. It's easy to just bog down with all that. And the last thing you want to do, and I'm speaking from my own experience the last few months, the last thing you want to do is jump online and fall right into, an argument about what a rookie card is or what grading company is good and bad. And, obviously those topics are important. They're not, they're not just, brush it aside things. You want to go with companies that are good. You want, it's important to talk about what rookies are and have perspective and things like that. But, the way that it can kind of get carried away right now, social media in general, I don't know if it's a combination of people being less out in the public over the last couple of years than before, but it's social media has seemed to embolden people even more to do and say things that they wouldn't normally say or do. And that has trickled over into our hobby. That's just not, politics and everything else. It's you see people going at it all the time. And, I've just found that my position here in this hobby, I've been blessed. I know that's corny. People, it's corny when people say that sort of thing, but I mean it. I've been touched by this hobby. So many people that have been kind to me, or that I've gained friendships from. And so my role, I feel like, is just to be a good steward for the hobby. I've probably had missteps over the years with that, but I feel like last year I've kind of refocused where I want to be in this. Obviously, we've seen a lot of change with pricing. We've gone through the whole retail, wildness of people camping out and waiting on retail. Now retail is starting to show up a little bit more, but it's higher priced. So you gotta, it's almost a be careful what you wish for situation. You want the retail there, and you want it where everybody else doesn't want to go grab it all, off the shelf. In order to do that, you've either got to do one of two things. You've got to increase your supply, which collectors don't like, or you've got to increase your price, which decreases margins for, secondary market type stuff, which also collectors don't like. Collectors would prefer to just, when I go to Walmart, let there be what I want to be there. And that's just not how it works. And so, we've seen the hobby kind of, I think, adjust to that, good or bad, depending on which side you're on. We've seen it adjust to that. And that was something that needed to happen. We've seen, obviously, with this Topps and Panini stuff going the Fanatics way, there's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of uncertainty about what it's going to do for distributors, for card shops, for our buying points. Are we going to be able to find stuff like we find it now? Are we going to have the avenues to buy that we have now? I'm sure all that's going to change to some degree. Maybe not as drastically as some think, but I'm sure there's going to be some change there. And so I'm anxious to see what happens. I'm anxious to see whether any of the card companies stay involved afterwards. Leaf has continued to stay involved with no licenses, and they put out there are a lot of products they put out that I enjoy. The Panini does baseball with no licenses, and there are some products out there that I enjoy. So I'm anxious to see how it all shakes out. I don't think anybody knows except for the folks at Fanatics what's going to happen. But there's a lot of uncertainty right now, and it sort of goes with, from a collector's perspective, there's been a lot of uncertainty for a couple of years. We've seen an influx of collectors / investors / prospectors, whatever you want to call it, come in over the last couple of years, and it's changed the way we collect. It's changed the way that we can access product. It's changed the way that I was buying. I had a conversation with my card shop owner several months ago. I bought 2018 Select football. I had bought a hobby box from him for $170. That was the set that had Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield that year, and just bought a hobby box for $170. That was it. And you can't sniff a Select mega box right now for $170. We've seen that some of the sets that are coming out this week, the releases, Rookies and Stars is coming out with a $360 price tag. And Rookies and Stars has historically been, sort of an entry, in my opinion, an entry-level product for football. Like a Score, a Donruss, a Rookie and Stars. And that's coming in at $350. So the way we collect has changed a lot over the last couple of years with this influx of new collectors. And I know some people don't call them collectors. I don't know what, I just call them collectors because they're in the same hobby that I'm in. There's been a lot of good people come in. There's been a lot of, unscrupulous people come in. Yeah. So, whenever there's a demand like we've seen the last few years, you're going to draw in some people that are just looking to cash in. That's just part of the business, any business. If real estate's going crazy, you're going to have a lot of people flipping houses. I mean, it's just the way it works. And I think as a long-time seasoned collector, or whatever you want to call us, you sort of see these things come and go, and when to kind of change your approach. When 354 rookies and stars box is not going to work for you. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to shift to something else that does work for me. And that may be, $89, which has not been affected by the rush. But, I have the thing that I've learned over the years is just to adapt with what we're doing. If something has gotten out of my price range, then I've collected enough variety over the years that I can move to something else for a while. And then prices are going to come back down. They may not come all the way down, but they'll level off. You can argue that the prices right now are too high, but I could also argue that maybe the price in 2018 that I paid was too low. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. I think we're all still figuring that out, where that sweet spot is. But along the way, of course, there's been a lot of casualties with, people stocking up on retail and not being able to sell it, and, people not being able to find what they're looking for. And, it's obviously there's been times when I've been bitter about it, and that's just human nature, I think. But, as a whole, anytime you have growth in any industry, whether it's, collecting cars or whether it's, like I said, the real estate, when you have growth, it's good. But there's a thing called sustainable growth, and that's what we've got to find. As we grow, let's grow in a way that it's positive and sustainable. And I think over time you do that. You go through some hiccups along the way. I mean, like I say, we've seen some stuff over the last 2 years that have just blown our minds. And so you kind of go through those things. But again, like in my experience, I've been able to kind of look at it from a distance far enough away to say, okay, I know that this is way out there right now. And the challenge is not letting it grab you and saying, I've got to be a part of this right now. Yeah. It's hard. I think, again, I talked about Project 2020. I mean, there's no better, I guess, microcosm event than you can look at what happened for a short time there with those cards and those prices, and how it culminated with that Shore Griffey and the numbers that were bought. And then it just, it just fell off. And that's a prime example of supply and demand in a collectible hobby. The Nick Markakis Topps Living card forever was a couple $100, $150, because it was one of the first cards printed, and had such a low print run. But the flip side of that is when, a Mike Trout, everybody goes out and buys a Trout, and there's a bunch printed. So, that's another thing, another topic, for another time, is that, the print to order things and the print on demand things. It's been interesting to watch, the roller coaster of those that kind of ties in with what everything else is going on in the hobby. You see laws, and you see big gains, and you've seen NFTs come around. You've seen Top Shot, explode and then sort of level back out. It's though I have experience in seeing things like this, I've never seen the number of things in a 2-year, 3-year span than what we've seen. So there's no measurement I can put on that. I mean, just the sheer volume of things that have just exploded is crazy. But I've still kind of fallen in my little area of collecting. I'll buy things when I feel like I want to really get into something. I'd spent a lot of time and money on Topps Archives this year just because I like the different designs that they released this year, and I've always enjoyed the fan favorite autographs. And it was a reasonable box. But you just have to kind of figure out where you fit. It's a hobby. It's something that you want to enjoy doing. And there have been times over the last few years that I have found myself chasing instead of enjoying. And I've tried to limit that exposure and tried to stay in my lane, so to speak, with what I know. And I can feel comfortable doing that. And every now and then I'll let a bug strike me and go out and buy a Top Shot, or something like that. But it's I'm very anxious to see where we go from here with the licenses and with Fanatics getting involved. I'm going to let them sort of either impress me or upset me before I have a strong opinion one way or the other. I've never dealt with them. I've seen people who have. There's been good experiences, bad experiences, but I think we can say that about most of the companies that we deal with. There's good and bad. And so I think, from my standpoint as a longtime collector, all I want is customer service and some options. So, give me something to buy and stand behind the product and we'll be fine.
Yeah, well said, man. Preach, Dub, because I'm not going to disagree with much of that, if any of that. Time for another quick break, but right after that, we'll be back with more with Dub. We are back with Joey Shiver. Couple bullet points. You mentioned being a good steward of the hobby, and that sometimes you might not always be. Couple things. I like to use the two A words, right? Advocates and ambassador for the hobby. You do a really great job. We're human. We're going to have moments where we don't, we're not perfect is
right.
Where I'm going with that.
Sure.
Nothing to be ashamed about. If you do 8 things right out of 10, that's better than I think most people.
Right.
So you can't be too hard on yourself. You mentioned sort of, not getting caught, the term that a lot of people use, FOMO, fear of missing out,
Right.
It's easy to say, sometimes it's harder to do, but if something's out of your price range, you just got to let it go. And like you said, a lot of times it eventually comes back in the grasp. And if you still want it at that point, it's more obtainable with a little patience. If you got to have it right now, it's going to cost you more money than if you can kind of wait it out. You mentioned social media, right on the money. People will take the smallest topic or debate and just beat it like a dead horse and make a mountain out of a molehill. And one thing I've done the last couple of years myself, Dub, and I think you mentioned it as well, is I just don't get caught in those big discussions. Like, it's sort of like potholes in the road, right? Mm-hmm. You have a choice. You can run right into it and rattle your car, or you can, slow down a little bit and go around it and avoid it. And I've kind of taken that. I'm on social media. I'm active on social media, but I'm just not going to get into these long, drawn-out arguments, especially when there's really, especially on opinion things, because no one's right or wrong. It's your opinion. So
that's the thing. I'm very interested in hearing your opinion. I want to hear about what you think about this product or what you think about, PSA or whatever the case may be. I want to hear that, but I'm not going to let it ruin my day.
Yeah.
If you feel differently about it than I do, it's not that important to me. I want to hear opinions. I want to have discussions, but I'm not going to let it, send me down a wrong road where, I'm now miserable talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's, you mentioned the hobby being an outlet, right? What, everyone has a different outlet. Musicians, where they play guitar, drums, they sing, that's their release, right? After work, they enjoy it. They can kind of just, let their hair down, so to speak. That's kind of what the hobby, for those who are in the hobby, that's what the hobby should be, like you said. So to get angst over it or get upset, that's where the hobby gets to be too serious. And, if the hobby that you love or supposed to love is starting to really make you upset or angry or mad, then you got to take a step back and reassess, your approach or what you're doing and maybe not take it as seriously. Maybe, like you said, sort of avoid those sort of like you're interested in hearing other people how they feel, but you're just not going to get, sucked down that rabbit hole where it ruins your day or puts you in a bad mood type
Right.
of thing. And
that's one of the
I've
things I enjoy about podcasts and listening to podcasts is you get to hear opinions, but you're not sitting there listening to somebody you're just listening to an opinion. It's not a big argument. It's not, well, I'm right, you're wrong. It's just hearing another perspective. I think anything in life, you need to be able to listen to other people's perspectives and weigh those. And maybe it hits home with you, maybe it doesn't. But if it doesn't, it doesn't mean that other person is a bad person. I mean, it's
and that's the thing. That's the thing, Dub. You've seen a lot of people cross that line where they gets into personal attacks or name calling, or you're dumb, or you don't know what you're talking. It gets very personal, and that's like you said. That's where I'm going to exit stage left. If we get to that point, I'm not even going to entertain. No one's going to win that. It's going to, like you said, it's going to ruin your day. It's going to get you fired up. I used to have a bad temper. The older I get, the more mellow I get. But there's still sometimes where I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to go there because I know what's going to happen. So, some self-control and, well said. I mean, the hobby's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be an outlet, a release for, on the side, so to speak. And, for some, they take it a little bit too serious. I mean, I take it serious. I don't want to be a hypocrite either, but you get, at the end of the day, right? As long as you're not doing anything bad, you're not ripping anybody off, robbing anybody, duping anybody. How we approach hobbies all our own. If you're not hurting nobody, then I don't have a problem with
whatever
them.
I do.
My biggest thing. What's
Whatever
that?
I do, even in the hobby, I want to be able to lay my head down at night and know that I've done the best that I can. I am just as guilty as anybody else of being negative from time to time, of having a strong opinion about something.
That's passion,
right? Just
I don't
like
think
you said,
have
in
to
old age, I've learned
for...
when to push that and when not to, and a lot of times it's just not worth pushing.
Yeah. And I listen, even with this podcast, I got to talk about stuff like you mentioned. I'm going to give my opinion. I'm not even saying I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I've come on this show and said, hey, when I said this, I was wrong. My bad. I'm human. Hopefully I'm right more than I'm wrong, but I'm probably going to be wrong again somewhere down the line. That's just, who we are as humans. I think there's some sort of, human element to like admitting you're wrong. Like, hey, I made a mistake. I think that's harder to do than not to do it, or just kind of like not talk about it. So, and no one, this hobby's changing so fast, like you mentioned. I don't care if you're veterans like we are for the 2 cents that's worth, Dub. There's things like you said with NFTs. I never thought we'd see NFTs. I joke about it on the show, breaking, which has really saved the wax industry at one point. I remember, I don't know about you when you were younger, like my friends were like, we'd have our packs. They're like, let me, if they had less or they didn't, let me open some of your packs. I'm like, no, get your own. Yeah. Right. Like if you would have told me 20, 30 years from that day, like people would pay other people to open all their stuff on a camera. They don't even get to open it and then just send them whatever they get. And hopefully it's good and not bad. And I would have thought you're crazy. I didn't even want my buddy opening packs and he's standing right next to me.
Right.
So you're going to tell me someone in another state on a camera and I'm going to pay him to do it too.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and imagine 20 years from today, what we're going to be seeing.
Yeah.
We have no idea.
You don't know. You don't know. And like you said, that's sort of the fun of the hobby too, is like you mentioned, you want to see what Fanatics is going to do. You're sort of giving them the benefit of the doubt, prove you're going to reserve judgment until they have a body of work where you can say, hey, I like what they're doing, or you know what, I don't like what they're doing. And if you say, I know you well enough to say, if Dub says he don't like it, he has reasons. He didn't wake up on the wrong side of the bed that day and just passed, there's a reason he feels that way. Same way, if I feel that way, I can tell you why. I can't just say, I don't know. I flipped a coin, and heads was I don't like it, and tails was I do. I can tell you why, in my opinion, like we talked about it, I just don't like that. And, I'm not an NFT guy. I'm old school to the point where, like, if I can't have it in my hand, see it, give it to you, give it to my son or whoever else, to me, doesn't exist. I mean, it's just a picture. That's me. But look,
I understand.
NFTs,
that's me too. But
NFTs are big business. Like, there's more people who don't think like me
Right.
for a successful. So that doesn't mean I'm right. That's just my approach.
I'm not just like you. I'm fine with it being a part of the hobby. I have no issue with anybody who does it. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
And so
that's exactly it. It's not my thing, but God bless you if that's what you like. It's legal and it's your money and it's your hobby. How you want to do it, knock yourself out, and hopefully it works out. I tend to root for people until they give me a reason not to, and so if that's your thing, enjoy it. Time to hear from one of our great sponsors, but right after that, we'll return.
Pastime Marketplace has a line of graded card cases that are waterproof, airtight, dust-tight, and hardened to protect and organize your valuable collection. Each of our cases come with pre-cut and pre-formed foam, so you don't have to cut and tear the foam when you get your case. The pre-cut foam inserts are sized to hold PSA, Beckett, SGC, and CGS slabs. Store it all safely and securely with a case from Pastime Marketplace. Check them out at www.pastimemarketplace.com.
We are back with more with Dub. Fanatics-wise, I don't want to spend a lot of time. I mean, I know you said you're going to you're going in there with an open mind. I mean, just talk about when that, for me, Dub, being from Brooklyn, New York originally, home of Topps. I always joke around that Topps and me were born in the same place, and Topps is just a little bit older than me. When that news broke that they were going to lose their license for baseball, it was really a shock to my system. I mean, when you think they've done it 70 years, it's sort of like it's synonymous with baseball cards, right? I mean, I'm 49 years old. For as long as I've been alive, there's always been those 5 letters on baseball cards. And when that story broke, the sentimental guy in me, not the podcaster, not even the hobby, just the human being. I'm like, we might not have Topps baseball cards at this point in a couple years. And like, it was shocking. I was sad. I was kind of mad. How does this happen? And then, you take a step back, you take a deep breath, and you say, well, this is early yet. I came on the show and said, hey, Fanatics could potentially buy Topps, acquire Topps. That's what actually wound up occurring. So we're going to still see those 5 letters on baseball cards. Now they're going to be owned by another business, but it's still going to be the Topps brand. And then I thought about it is like you said, kind of go in open minded, give them the benefit of the doubt, prove me wrong or right type of deal. And let's see what they do, right? Let's see what they do and make it better. I mean, if you had to, pick one thing, what if you had Fanatics on the line and they said, Dub, give us one word of advice. You've been doing this a long time. We value your opinion here. What can we do that maybe Topps wasn't customer service? I'm going to take that one off the table. That makes this a little harder because that one's, I think, the obvious one. That's the gorilla in the room. But other than improve customer service, what would you say to Fanatics? Like, hey, you're in charge now. I'd like to see you do this or not do this. Maybe something Topps was doing, and they're like, I don't want to see that anymore now that you're calling the shots. What would you pick?
I think, it's tough, to pick one thing. Obviously, there's several things I'd like to tell them. I think first and foremost, from my collecting perspective, I'd want to say, don't lose your sense of history. Even though Fanatics is new in cards, they're going to be carrying a name on some of their cards like Topps. And one of the things that has always been meaningful to us is the history of the sport, history of cards, the history of designs, great players that get brought back from time to time. And I would want to feel like, as a collector, that Fanatics is just picking up where Topps ended. Not Fanatics is wiping out Topps and we're fixing to do it our way. I would like to, I'm not saying it has to be Topps, but I'd like the, how to put this, I'd like the history of the hobby to continue through Fanatics, since they've acquired Topps. Keep some designs for us, keep some of the old throwbacks, limit your releases a little, I think, but keep a little bit of what has always been important to collectors. That's, you're put a lot into your flagship release every year, and just make sure that release is something that continues every year, and you build off of that every year. We've obviously, there's been complaints over the last several years about design and different things of Topps releases, flagship release and things like that. There's always somebody who's dead set against it, and there's always somebody who loves it. I've kind of fallen in the middle on a lot of the releases, but I just want Fanatics to, I don't know how to put it in words. I just don't want there to be, I would love for my collecting to just continue. Not
honor the tradition.
Right. That's what I mean, just remember what the hobby has been. There's going to be changes because the world is changing. Obviously, NFTs, all this kind of stuff. There's going to be new offerings, but keep this part that has always been a part of it. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And so, don't know what's going to happen, I guess, with the Nini and all this other stuff, but I do like being able to find designs every year that pay homage to a previous design. Some, from the 70s or 80s or 90s. And I hope that the card collecting will continue in a way that the physical 3x5s are still a big part of our collection, and we can all still collect sets and things like that. I'm nervous. One of the things I'm nervous about is how everything in Major League Baseball is monetized now. Foul ball, an authenticator gets it and takes it to a store, and you can go buy that ball because it was the third foul ball by Pete Alonso on a second at bat. And that's all. Yeah. That's well and good if that's what you're into. There are people that are, but I still want the old school line of cards to be a focus, and that's I guess where I'm at with it.
I agree. You want to honor that past. The reason where we are is because of that past, that bridge that got us to where we are. I believe that Fanatics will. I think one of the reasons they acquire Topps is to acquire that IP and carry that tradition forward. They're obviously going to put their own spin on things. When you pay that much for licensing, you're going to want to do it your way. I expect it, like you said, to be some changes, but I think if they weren't going to honor some of the traditions, Dub, of the past, they wouldn't have bought Topps. They would have just let them sort of fall to the wayside and just said, "Hey, thanks Topps for 7 years. Now hold my beer," sort of thing. Watch this. They didn't do that. They could have. And so the fact that they didn't leads me to believe that they want to still implement some of that stuff. And it's wise. I think it's a wise choice on them. And, whatever you want to say about Fanatics, good and bad, and I've said both too, there's a lot of smart people in that building that making some of these calls. And so I believe you're going to get sort of what you wanted, and I agree with you. I want to see, as a kid that grew up in Brooklyn with those brands and products through the years, I don't want them to die. I want them to live on in some capacity, and I do believe, again, Fanatics has the call, not me, but my gut tells me we're going to get what we sort of want. And Fanatics knows, at the end of the day, right, it's the collectors, it's the hobbyists that are buying these products. Whether they make it or fail is going to be based on our consumer decisions. They're smart enough to know that, and I think that there's going to be enough of that taken into consideration. I think we're going to get. We may not like everything we see, like you said, and we have choices. That's what our hard-earned money. I'm going to buy some of that. Nope, that's past my price point. Going to have to say no or wait till it comes back down if it does. But I think Fanatics with the acquisition of Topps, that's really the driving force behind that, because they didn't have to. They could have saved their money and let Topps just dwindle to whatever they would have wound up doing before being acquired. So I have a good feeling there. So I think we're going to get that, and that'll be a good thing. Speaking, you mentioned you like to open a lot of the 80s, 90s stuff. Takes us back to a younger time in our lives with collecting. Are you finding that stuff harder to find? I mean, more people are opening it. It's, they're not making as much as they made, as we both know. They're not making more. So every box that gets opened is one less, box out there. Are you finding it more difficult to get that stuff at all, or not?
I am, yeah. And I've been monitoring pricing, over the last few years, and have seen an increase in just about everything. 89 Fleer baseball is a prime example. You can't find a good unsearched box, so to speak, for less than $60. And there's a lot of things to like about 89 Fleer. It's Junior's rookie year. You got Ripken, you got Randy Johnson, but the prices have gone up in a lot of areas that of things that I collect. I remember just 2-3 years ago buying up a lot of 84, 85, 86 Topps, and now 84 is just, it's unreal how much boxes of 84 and 85 cost. And I'm sure a lot of that is attributed to, like you said, they're not making it anymore. I think the only one they're still making is 1990 Donruss. I think that is still being printed.
Still the presses are still going.
Yeah, but there's a lot of sets that have a lot of the growth that we've experienced over the last several years have been guys my age who didn't collect for 20 years and they came back because they saw in the news that cards were coming back, or they saw their friends on Facebook talking about cards, and when a guy like me comes back into the hobby, it's easy to get overwhelmed at all the releases now. And what do I buy? What is opening day? What is Heritage? What is Archives? What is Prism? What is all this stuff? And, it's easy to say, well, I did used to collect this. I wonder how much it'd be to go back and buy, a box of 89 Upper Deck now. Well, it's $300 or $400. So a lot of the guys my age will want that nostalgia of opening those old boxes again. And so the demand has come up on them. I've seen a lot of accounts, TikToks, Instagram pages pop up that are dedicated to, nostalgia, and whether it's cards, movies, music. A lot of people are into the 80s and 90s right now. And part of that is baseball cards were pop culture from that time. And so more eyes looking at it has brought the price up. There are some things that you really can't hardly find. For instance, 88 Topps football is a good example, or 87 Topps football. That's Randall Cunningham's rookie year, I believe.
Jerry Rice second year.
Yeah, 87 Topps football. I looked about a month ago, and I want to say there were maybe 15 listings for boxes unopened, 15 to 20.
Great, and I don't mean to cut you off. I just bought a collection a couple weeks ago, and in the collection were one complete box and one almost complete box of 87 Topps football cello boxes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest with you, Dub, when I was looking through the collection and I eventually bought it, like I thought that was neat and I didn't think much about it. And then when I got home and started to like catalog it and check stuff out, well, like you said, when I looked it up, there wasn't a lot of it.
Right.
And the prices of it shocked me.
Right.
And
I mean,
$750
yeah,
for, I'll say this, between $550 and $750 for an 87 Topps Football Cello box. Now it's
and
got the random cutting.
While that doesn't
crazy.
touch what's releasing now, those boxes 2 years ago, you could have bought 87 Topps all day for less than $100.
Yeah.
50, 60 bucks.
And when I look at the price of the box, listen, I didn't buy the collection because of those two. It was just in there. I was a little shocked by that. I had to like double and triple check. Like, am I looking at something wrong? Is this like, and I look, whenever you look at the box, right? You mentioned 89 Fleer. You look at what the driving cars, what the rookies are. In 89 Fleer's case, you mentioned the Griffey, the Ripken era that everyone's trying to get. And, when you look at 87 Topps Football, it's Cunningham rookie. It's Jim Kelly's first NFL card. He has a USFL card that people chase. And it's Jerry Rice's second year. And when I looked up the values of those cards like raw, they're not crazy.
Right.
So I'm like, it's weird that the boxes are that much, but you could actually just buy the best cards that come out of the boxes are just so much cheaper. I'm just surprised that the boxes. Now we both know grading is a big factor. Obviously, driving price. You pull a Rice second year, it's in nice shape, centered and crisp. You send it in, and it pulls a 10. It's going to probably pay for your box. It's crazy.
As well as I do, though. Anything printed in 87, you're basically rolling the dice on it coming out. As they say, packed fresh is still going to be, an 8, 9. Every now and then you come across something really good, but I do
you're
think
better off
to do with the price of the box, and
buying
it's
the
too much of a premium.
Yeah, you're better off buying the singles. I know that's no fun. Nothing beats opening the pack of cards. Let's be real.
Right.
But when you compare like that cello box price to what some of the singles are, if I was watching my pennies, and I think we all do at most of the times, I'm going to be probably, buying the singles rather than taking my chance on a $700, between a $500 and $700 cello box in this case. I was shocked. It's funny you mentioned that particular year and product, because I acquired it not specifically, like I said, for those. They were just kind of in the tote, and it floored me when I looked. I didn't expect that. I thought $100, maybe $150, Jerry. And so when I saw that, I kind of double and triple checked. I'm like, I must be missing something. Maybe these are like some kind of weird run, but no, that was it. And it's crazy to where some of this wax product are going. Another word from our great sponsors, but we'll be right back with Dub Mentality after that.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
We've returned with Joey Shiver. I want to congratulate you, Dub, too. You've wrote a couple pieces for Beckett. I know that's a huge deal. I wanted to get to that a little earlier, but I wanted to tip my cap to you, congratulate you on that. That's awesome stuff, and you did a great job.
I appreciate it. It's been, the just seeing my name in there. It's just that's been unreal for me, and obviously I stopped writing a lot last year, and we'll probably jump back in some this year, but I would have a cover article, in the bottom corner, my name is is on the same cover as Derek Jeter is. I mean, it's like, I know that's corny, but it's when you grew up reading, you pick a magazine that you grew up reading, and if you'd have told me at 13, 30 years from now, you're going to write in this magazine, even as a freelance or whatever, you're going to have an article in here. I'd never believe it.
That's not corny. That's a huge deal, and you should be proud and nothing to be ashamed of. And I know when you posted it that day, man, I was almost as happy as you were. Not as quite because it's you, but I could tell by your post you were like excited to on a little kid level, and that's really when you're having that much fun in a hobby, that's what it should be all about. And so how can you not root for someone that's that ecstatic? And listen, we're not that far apart in age, and I that was my magazine. Then when I had my store, I was selling them, and so I get that 100%. And kudos to you and congratulations there. Nothing to be. You don't have to apologize for being excited. Be excited because it's worthy of excitement. Just in a couple minutes, I don't. We're kind of up against time wise, but you're a big Braves guy. I'm a Mets guy. We got the baseball lockout going on right now. It's probably going to affect at least spring training at this point. You read things that they're not close. They're not negotiations aren't going well. This has happened before. We both know this in baseball. There's been strikes, work stoppages. Anytime that's happened, it's been bad for the hobby. It's been bad for the sport on the grander scheme of things. Do you think they'd learn from their prior mistakes, Dub? And yet here we are again, sort of with a bad feeling. I mean, just your thoughts. Why can't they? I know there's things they want, each side wants, but why can't these guys, at some compromise to some point where we won't get, and it could still happen. I don't want to make it like we're losing games for sure, but it's not looking good. Why is it these two groups just can't seem to get on the same page when these things come up?
I always battle with feeling bad for either side. I know that
you're feeling bad for millionaires and billionaires,
but I want the players to be treated fairly. I want them to share the revenue that they're helping create, and I mean, I want them to get the things that they need to feel like their place they belong. Their place is set in the league. Anytime you have two parties that at this point aren't even talking to each other, are using a middleman, to kind of mediate for them, you kind of realize how far apart you might be. Like you said, you would like to think that they learned from the past, but it feels like deja vu all over again. The Montreal Expos are still wondering what happened in 1995 or 1994. But as a fan, you just want to see the guys play. As a Braves fan, I'm sitting here in limbo wondering whether we're going to sign Freddie Freeman or not because we can't do anything. And the constant information with no information is not helping. I don't get the feeling that we're any closer than we were 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm worried about opening day. We've already had shortened seasons in the last couple of years with COVID in 2020. You had a shortened season. It's this tangled web that we have. If you look at what happened to baseball in the 90s when this happened, it took a summer with Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa to bring us all back. And we just spent last month saying there's no way we'll ever let those guys in the Hall of Fame. That to me, that's baseball to me. You have to realize, and the owners have to realize, the reason we're watching this right now is because of the players on the field. We're watching Acuna, we're watching Freeman, we're watching Alonso, we're watching Scherzer. Let's do it. You're not. Let's make something work. Let's compromise. I'm afraid we're doing a lot of new weird stuff. Like the extra innings routine we're doing, and we're playing with the DH, and we're timing pitches and all this kind of stuff. I think we're tinkering too much, but I think that's part of their negotiation. They're talking about all these things that they're willing to do change and what not willing to change.
What kills me, Dub, is they're not close. They're not, they're not close to an agreement. But what kills me is they're not meeting enough. Like, lock yourselves in a room like a jury does, right? When there's a trial, right? Those 12 jurors, men and women, in those cases, those doors get locked, and they gotta hash out some sort of decision. It could be a hung jury. I don't want to make this a court show, but that's how but when you hear that they're not meeting, they haven't met in 7 days, 9 days, like, what are you doing? Like, get in a room, lock the door, order some food, whatever you got to do, work this out. You're going to play baseball again at some point.
Right.
So there's going to be an agreement at some point, but get in that room, close the door, and get close. Not meeting for 9 days, that's what gets me more mad than hearing
no other business can just stop.
Yeah.
And then not make any headway. I mean, the owners in Florida and the Players Associations in Arizona.
Yeah, it's like the kid that doesn't get his way, takes his ball, and goes home.
Yeah.
No, stay on the field and let's talk about this. Yeah. No one goes home, and so that's what makes me mad, Dub, more than the fact that they're not close on some things, is that they're not even trying. All right, you're not close on some things. That's why you're having these negotiations. Well, have the negotiations. Get in the room, close the door. I want to hear that they met for 10 hours today.
Yeah.
There's no decision. They haven't come to an agreement, but they met for 10 hours today, and they're going to be back at it tomorrow.
If they're not meeting, you just don't even think they're doing anything.
Yeah. They don't let jurors go home and say, hey, come back next week and let's discuss the case again. Until they've come to some sort of either unanimous agreement, or after like a week and they can't get one, they go to the judge and say, hey, we have a hung jury. We just can't get on the same page. And then there's another trial pretty soon afterwards. So get in there, lock the doors. That's what gets me mad, is when you hear that they're not doing anything. It's almost like whatever,
Yeah.
And that tells, and then it's fans like us that are sort of holding the bag. And I'll be honest with you, if this is an extended loss of games or season, it's going to affect them in a negative way, obviously. I mean, that's not breaking news. And the hobby, too. I mean, baseball's probably lost the most ground hobby-wise in comparison to other sports, and this would just be another detrimental thing.
I mean, you remember what collecting was like in 95, 96, 97. I mean, it was a wasteland.
Yeah.
It was when a lot of people, when they tell the stories about, I left and I've come back to the hobby, a lot of people left in 95 area.
Yeah, they either left or they went to another sport. So I'll do football, I'll do basketball, even hockey.
And we've learned over the last 2 years that demand and price is very much driven by on the field performance right now.
Yeah.
Now you got your prospecting, but we've seen guys have a 50-point night in basketball, and you pull him up on eBay and his cards are exploding.
Yeah.
Heck, so if it's not right there in front
we've
of
seen Bobo. I'll give you a name. Bobo had like a scrimmage, a preseason game where he went off, and his stuff went nuts. He never, it was just a preseason game. He didn't repeat it, and it's what have you done for me lately? Kind of hobby. And baseball, Dub, just as well as I do. Baseball cannot afford another long drawn. I think people forgive them if they miss some spring training games. That's not a huge deal. But if this gets into regular season games getting canceled, postponed, it's not going to be good for the sport. And they gotta see that. They gotta look at the big picture here. And get in that room and close the door and even if they don't get the agreement that day, just get one step closer to it. And so that there's less of a work stoppage, less of games that aren't played. And
compromise.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to – every work stoppage ends. But the less you meet, the longer that takes to end. I mean, just do the math. It's not rocket science, So hopefully they wise up and we get baseball. You get your team on the field to defend its title, and I get my team hopefully to take it away. But I'm hoping smarter heads get to the table and make some stuff happen. And the players too, it's a two-way street.
Sure.
They can't even, like you said, there can't be any signings or deals until this is over. Like that's a lot up in the air. Where am I playing next year? I don't know. What am I doing with my house? I mean, this is like real life stuff.
Right.
So, so I hope they a deal gets done sooner rather than later. I think it's better for the sport. It's better for the hobby. Two things we both care about. And
pitchers and catchers are supposed to be reporting soon, aren't they?
February 17th usually. Yeah. So, no, that's not looking like I don't think they're going to be reporting on February 17th. But we'll see. Hopefully the tides change there, and we're not talking about no games, and we're talking about performances, like you said, on the field. Well, Dub, I appreciate you. I know you said you've kind of laid low. I appreciate you coming on the show, and always a pleasure talking sports, talking hobby, talking life as well with you. I always give the guests kind of the final word. Anywhere people can check your website, what you're doing out. Go ahead and give all that information out.
Yeah, John, I appreciate you having me. I always enjoy talking with you. We talk a lot, like you said, off the podcast. We text and message each other and stay in contact as much as we can. So I appreciate you having me. But I'm everything can be found at Dub Mentality. My website's dubmentality.com. My Twitter, my TikTok, my Instagram, everything's Dub Mentality, which I'm not as active on some of those things, but I do have those pages.
Anyone can go there and see what you've already done too.
Yeah.
So
I'm most active on Twitter, and of course I'll be integrating some articles back on the blog this year. I've just the last 6 months of last year was just a whirlwind, and last thing I thought about was filling up the blog with 90 Tops articles, but they'll be back. Maybe I'll get one on 87 Tops football, but I can be found at all those places, and always enjoy interacting with people. I follow people back that are active and talk with me in the hobby. Try to be as accessible as possible and spread myself out and be, in a lot of different circles and learn a lot of different things. So.
Yep, no doubt. Well, Dub, I'll make a promise to you. It won't be 2+ years before we do the third spot on the show. If I have anything to say about it,
I appreciate it.
All right, hey man, thanks again. Take care. Be well. We'll see you soon.
Same to you, man.
Hey everybody, have you heard about Collectible? It's the one-stop shop where any collector can buy and trade affordable shares in some of the most rare and valuable sports cards and memorabilia in the world, starting from just $5. From 1952 Mickey Mantle PSA 10s in Wilt Chamberlain's iconic rookie uniform to one-of-one Patrick Mahomes RPAs, rare LeBron James logo mans, and everything in between, Collectible is creating never-before-seen access and opportunities for all. Let's grow the hobby we love together. Please note this is not a recommendation or solicitation to buy any security. All investment decisions should be undertaken after doing your own research.
All right, that's going to do it for another episode of Sports Card Nation. As always, thank you out there who listen to the show in whatever form or facet, no matter where it is, on public transportation, in your house, in the shower. It doesn't matter. Without you, we don't have a show. I want to thank my great guest today, Dub Mentality. I think, we talk about perseverance and and grit. I know I talked about that on Hobby Quick Hits the other day, and this gentleman personifies that too. And you know what, at different times, or no matter how positive of a person we are, myself included, right, we all have those moments where something in life has kind of brought us down, whether it be losing a family member, something at work, whatever the case may be. And we need a little pick me up, if you will. We need people to know out there people are behind us and care about us. And Joey got that recently. I've gotten it with losses I've suffered from job to my brother, and along those lines. And those words of encouragement and thoughts of encouragement go a long way, as you heard Dub talk about, I've talked about, and in turn we try to be there for others, and that's what I'll close on. Help each other out, be there for one another. You don't know what that 1 minute text message, phone call, how much it can actually, what a difference it can make. And I know I speak for Dub, and I speak for myself in saying, even with us, if you know us and you want to talk, my door is always open. I know he feels the same way. So, while the hobby is cards, right, the things behind the cards are the people, and we got to be there for each other. And when we are, that stuff just, you can't put a price on it. So it's a good note to end on. Take care, be well, and we'll see you real soon.